Today we're going to take a look at the GM 8L-45 transmission to see what's inside and how it works. Now this transmission is out of a 2016 Cadillac CTS and it was the subject of a massive class action lawsuit. Now one of the reasons was the hydroscopic transmission fluid they used from the factory that would suck in moisture through this vent tube here and cause the transmission to shudder a lot. That would be simply fixed with a fluid flush with Mobile 1 ATF. Now this is an 8-speed automatic transmission mounted longitudinally for rear wheel drive. Now outside of this transmission got a bit of familiarity because it's based on the ZF8 HP transmission, and that's used with a lot of longitudinally mounted brands from Land Rover, BMW to Jeep, and even GM. Now if the transmission kept shuddering, it could eventually damage the torque converter clutch inside here, so maybe we'll tear that apart later. We've got our torque reverse neutral switch here and our two coolant lines over on this side. We've also got this transfer case here for Cadillac's unique all-wheel drive system. We'll save that for another teardown video. I'm going to start this teardown by removing this transfer case. Alright, a bunch of 15mm bolts going all the way around. Here's the transfer case. Next I'm going to take off this little case extension here. Now at the bottom of the oil pan we're going to take off these 10mm bolts going around. It sounds like oil is warming up on the stove. Alright, now let's get this oil pan off. And I love that they use a steel oil pan and not a plastic one like newer ones. What we see here is that the oil pan, first of all, is very clean. I didn't expect any failure. However, there is a bit of sludge on these magnets, which is normal to be expected of a mid-mileage engine. Now, as you can see, this is the drain port, but it's also the fill port at the top here. You can see the straw. You'd remove that, drain out all the fluid, put it back in and pump the fluid in from underneath to get it at the right level when it's at the right temperature. Here's another thing that I like. It's got a very accessible filter. Unlike a lot of nowadays transmissions that have integrated filters that you have to take the whole thing apart to get to. This is one plastic unit. Now if you guys know what eye-tweedler is, if that's OE, I'm not too sure. Things are already starting to get a little messy, so I ran in and got my old work pants. These ones are a bit sun damaged, as you can see. I went to the beach with them. And I'm going to start wiping up around here because it's getting really oily. Now this one they kept with the German design, went with e-Torx. This is a little baffle here for the oil pump gear. Alright, there's a little tab in here that you release to get this oil pump gear off of the oil pump, which is integrated into this valve body, believe it or not. And now we come to the valve body, which is the brains of the transmission. Now some people said changing the valve body got rid of the shudder. At least it's accessible and you don't have to take apart half the transmission to get to it. Take this wiring harness off. Amazing, they made the wiring harness modular. Okay, I found these are very shallow head E10s. Not very easy to clamp onto my E10 socket. See, they just skip. Alright, so instead of using an E10 where you're supposed to use it, I'm actually going to use a regular 8mm head. So that's how a normal E12 socket should be. These ones are super shallow and my regular E10 can't clamp onto it. Just a valve body out of here. Quick thing about the valve body, you've got an integrated pump over here instead of being into the housing, but the big thing here at the back is your accumulator for your start-stop technology. This is going to hold enough line pressure to change the vehicle into first gear as soon as you let off that brake pedal, so you have a really fast shift, because that pump won't be able to do it until a few milliseconds later. Transmission has 3 speed sensors. These bolts are torque to yield, so if you're rebuilding this transmission, that'll be fun. Tap the connector bob out here. Couple of 10 mils holding the transmission housing on the front here. There's 2 holes here that you can put a slide hammer and pull it, but I ain't got a slide hammer. I got a real hammer, so I'm going to hit it from the back and see what happens. Great. Yeah, look what happened back here, buddy. Right, I'm going to go grab, got my brother's bed sheet here, and my wife's painting clothes here. She ain't need that. And I got my paint pants here too. So that tail housing that I unbolted earlier with this sun gear on it just came off and spilled a whole bunch of franny fluid on the floor. Ran in and got my kid's diaper box. Gotta love kids, eh? Just gonna put that down there. Before I cause any more violence, let's take out the rest of the back end of this transmission. But the backwards way of doing it. Looks like we got a planet carrier inside of here and another planet carrier on this side. Alright, back to beating her up here. Yeah. There we go. Oh shoot, I broke it. Here's your transmission front cover. Looks like you've got some fluid passages inside of there, and that's what this big O-ring that was stuck on there was sealing off. Put a nice big hole in there with the pry bar. Here is the chain drive and the little chain, very thin. Let's get these 13s out of here. Pop this off. This is the torque converter stator. And this is the input shaft here coming with it. And our first clutch set here is the 1357 clutch set. Piece out next. Comes with a long drum. And another shaft here. Got a ring gear. The barrel also comes out. It's got a planet carrier on it. Looks like it also had a sun gear in it too. They're using plastic thrust washers now instead of metal ones. First set of snap ring, not too bad. Don't mind transmissions with not many snap rings. You got a piston here. This one's aluminum. And there's a return spring for it. And we've got a double sun gear on either side. And there is a ring gear. And there's an end pulley over here. Feel like there's more clutches here. One more snap ring. And then the last set of clutches. That's pretty much for the casing. You've got your little parking pole activator here, which is going to take a lever movement from your shifter, translate it into this tooth that's moving here, and lock that into the output down here. Now that little tooth is preventing your car from rolling away, so make sure you use your handbrake. Now taking a look at this 8L-45 transmission, this wasn't a failed unit, it was out of a salvage car, but you can definitely tell it's been used. Parts are a little bit worn and the transmission fluid is a little bit dark. Taking a look at the layout at the front here, we've got our torque stator and we've also got the input shaft from the engine. Here's our first bearing and our second bearing would be on the output over here. I kind of laid it out this way because I don't want any more parts falling on my beautiful toes anymore. Now that being said, all of this weight is being carried on only these two bearings alone. Now if I pull off this input shaft section here, this is our 1357 clutch assembly. Now you'll notice that there's holes going through the shaft over here and at the top here, and that's to carry fluid coming from the transmission casing from the valve body into the next set of pistons following it. Looks like in here we've got one set of clutches. There's a snap ring holding it in place. Ooh, let's check the condition. You can see the clutches are well used. Now how this works is that there's these steel bands, those are externally teeth. That's going to spline to this barrel over here, and the friction discs are going to spline to the next barrel in line over here. They're going to be moving around relative to each other in automatic transmission when they're not applied, but when you apply some hydraulic pressure to the piston that's back here, they're going to squish together and lock these two barrels together. Usually the valve body would send some hydraulic pressure through one of these holes here, and through the shaft it's going to fill this up. Okay, I got this snap ring off here. Now I can remove this piston drum. Those are the holes there that would feed that piston. Now this kind of piston requires you to use a press to push down against the return spring. So because I don't have a press, I'm not going to do that right now, but I'll show you what a piston looks like. Next up, we're looking at our 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 clutch set over here. So we'll pull that out, and I'll notice that there is a ring gear that wants to pop up with it as well. Now if you notice, there's two clutches inside of here. There's an internal one and an external one, which also means there's going to be two pistons inside of here that control those two. Those are going to control our direct drive ring gear, as well as the outside part here, which is our sun gear for this first planetary gear set inside of here. Now the direct planet carrier is going to be splined to the next shaft over here towards the back of the transmission. Let's take a look at the condition of our 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 clutch. Take out our first set of clutches. Oh yeah, those are pretty well used. You can see how dark they are compared to the brighter brown on the inside, like how they're supposed to be. And there's definitely some hot spots on these plates here. This transmission may have well been failing very soon. This one, they're definitely dark and well used, but I don't see any hot spotting on the steel. Just using a needle bearing thrust washer here. Inside of here, again, you're going to have to compress this to take out the pistons. But there's two pistons, one on the outside over here, and then the one on the inside over here, that are going to press up respectively on those clutches. Let's pull this apart further here. See, there is a sun gear for that first planetary gear set, but on the back here we've got our input internal gear or ring gear for the next planetary gear set, and this becomes our input carrier. You can see this is the planet carrier with the little planets inside there, and remember this was splined to that big thing in front of the transmission. So this is our input carrier or the second planetary gear set, and it's sun gear over there. You'll see on the back of it we've also got our sun gear for our reaction internal planetary gear set. There's the ring gear for it. And here on the output side we've got our reaction carrier assembly for the third planetary gear set. So if I pull off our reaction carrier assembly here, you can see it's also got a ring gear for the next planetary gear set. We take our previous ring gear and put that on there. And this whole thing will plug onto that sun gear from before. Now the output carrier assembly, if you remember, goes to our first planet carrier or our direct planet carrier. And that would go down to all the way to the front. This here is going to slide on top of here like that. Now the sun gear that's in here splines to a shaft that goes all the way back to our 23468 clutch assembly. That sits inside of there. And finally we've got our output shaft here. Now this is going to spline into our output carrier assembly over here. And that's going to become the output of the transmission that goes to the transfer case. Final note, there's two clutches on the outside here, which are these two sets of clutches separated by this large piece here. This ring here looks a little bit slimy. Clutches themselves look in really decent shape. They're a nice brown color. Now looking on this side here, these ones look a little bit more worn. Now the outside one of those clutches are going to be powered by this piston that's on the back of the transmission casing that's going to push up. And the one in the middle here is powered by this one, which is secured inside of the transmission casing. I can just pick this off here, very easy. And you can see there is going to be a rubber seal going around, just the same as all of the other pistons. Fluid is going to be filled up from the valve body directly underneath the transmission and fill this cavity here to push it out to react on this clutch. There's also this physical return spring that's going to push it back when the fluid pressure is released. Oh yeah, you see these teeth in here? They're very small, and that's what your parking pawl locks into, because that's the final drive. Now on some of these you do notice that there are some wear on these shafts, even though these things are well lubricated. See a little bit of wear on the inside of that bushing as well as on this shaft over here there's some wear. And it's cool how GM, and by extension ZF, came up with a very compacted nestled design for 8 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. I mean, there's probably more than 1 reverse gear, but we don't really use that. Now just in case you don't remember how a planetary system works, you can see we've got our planet carrier over here. Then I've got my ring gear, which I'm going to slide over that. And then I've got my little sun gear over here, which I'm going to slide over that. Now this works by holding one gear stationary. So for example, if I held my ring gear stationary, turned my sun gear as my output, you'll see that the planet carrier is now turning at a slower rate, but also multiplying torque as it's doing so for like a first or second gear. Conversely, if I held my planet carrier and then turned my sun gear, you'll see that the ring gear is now turning in the opposite direction, which would be good for a reverse gear setup. Now as you can imagine, with 4 planetary gear sets, you can come up with multiple combinations to give you different speeds in forward and reverse. Now let's take a quick look at this body. You can see that there's 7 solenoids, looks like 2 pressure sensors. This is the manual valve that I kind of bent when I took it out, and this is the giant accumulator for the start-stop system. Let's take off all the 8mm bolts first. I'll take off this top piece. Wow, this is kind of dark. I expected it to be a little lighter. Yeah, look at the transmission fluid. It's not very bright, so I don't think in 140,000 that they changed that. Okay, as I kind of drain some of that fluid, you'll see that there's plastic check balls inside of here. Next up, we got some 7mm. There we go. I'm turning this upside down. Oh, a whole bunch of check balls started coming out. Here we have another plate, and we have what looks like the brains of this transmission, literally. So how this works is we've got all these solenoids, and they're going to command a hydraulic circuit to turn on when you want to apply one of those clutches. This looks complicated, but I'm sure there's probably some software that maps this out pretty easy for them to be very space efficient. I also noticed a lot of plastic check balls, which I know other manufacturers had issues with because sometimes they're too light. Sometimes they get stuck and they don't hold their tolerances very well. Okay, here's the crappiest design ever. See, this is the bottom of the valve body, and you got to take this valve body apart before you can get these clips out, just like that, to change the solenoid. See that? The solenoid only comes out once you get half the valve body apart, which means that you're pretty much doing a rebuild once you get in here. It's not just popping out a solenoid if you have a very simple code of a stuck solenoid anymore. If they'd only installed the retainer from the other side, then at least you could access this either while it's in the vehicle or take it out of the vehicle but not have to take the whole thing apart and have all these balls fly over the place. Of course, there are going to be a bunch of these spool valves that are all spring loaded. It's going to work against the hydraulic pressure when making circuits, so it's got like little one-way valves. Let's just turn this on its side here so I can show you what the pump looks like. Take the 10 mils off of that. Pull this oil pump apart. And you can see we've got a little plate here. This is like the oiliest part of the video, so you've always got to have a piece of your daughter's old shirt here so you can wipe off your hands as you're working along. I'm seeing a lot of these thin plates here that are kind of nestled together. And I open this up here and you can see we've got a vane style pump. Taking a look at how the oil pump works, you got our inlet here. The oil is going to come in, it's going to get squeezed, then pushed out through the outlet over on this side. And these are the little vanes here. Wow, these are really thin. So that was a look at the oil pump. This is the housing over here, which is cast it into the valve body. This is the input here that comes in from the oil filter, and of course the output is going to go directly into these main channels inside of this valve body to form your hydraulic circuit. Some people did mention that these bores are susceptible to wearing out because you've got valves that are moving in and out all the time. Really depends on the material you've used for the spool valve as well as the casting. But that's just the characteristic of this valve body, and nothing much you could do to it as it gets to high mileage and you start to lose oil pressure. Now in vehicles with start-stop technology, you got to hold oil pressure so you can change into first gear. This is a giant spring in here, so I'm a little nervous about taking this thing apart. Whew, did have some pressure. Giant springs. Wow, look at that. These are actually pretty sturdy. You could use that to lower your Honda Civic. It's nice and stiff. So essentially what's going to happen is we've got a little solenoid in here that's going to bring in fluid. It's going to fill up against that spring pressure. That pressure is pushing against this piston. I don't think I can get it out. Inside of here we've got a giant piston, and essentially this piston is going to be inside of there pushed up against the spring pressure. The solenoid is going to command the pump to send pressure all the way to here when you're in start-stop mode. So you got lots of pressure built up in here, so you can switch those solenoids into first gear without having any delay, because remember, the pump is only working when the engine works. Now a lot of other manufacturers use an electric pump to build up that oil pressure during idle stop mode. Now if you leave the shuddering to happen for a very long time, it's going to take its toll on the torque converter clutch. So let's take a look at the condition of that clutch. It's freezing cold outside, but I got to do it outside because it's just going to stink in the shop. Alright, it's smoking. Took about 2.5 cutting wheels and 2.5 cold hands. I'm going to open up this torque converter here. Now I've got a more elaborate video on how torque converters work, but essentially we have the entire housing that's rotating with the engine as it's bolted to the flex plate. We have this stator in the middle here, which we saw the stator stud was sticking out of the transmission. That's going to take fluid that's moving in this direction, force it to change in the other direction, and then again it's forced to change in this direction here where the transmission is splined into, and that gives you the torque multiplication. Now they've added a torque damper over here to dampen out any vibrations coming from the engine before it goes into the transmission. But if you look at the splines on the outside here from the transmission piece, that's going to correlate to the splines over here on the engine side, and this is the torque converter clutch. Now a torque converter is there to provide a lot of slip, but when you don't need slip, like when you're on the highway, you want to lock this bell housing over here to this transmission piece using this clutch. Locking up the clutch is done by sending fluid to that shaft that plugs into here. That's going to pop this whole piston out and lock up this clutch. Let's see if we can get this piston to come out. So as I'm prying on it, I'm feeling there's a spring kind of pulling it back. I'm gonna go grind off these rivets and see if that has anything to do with it. Okay, so I don't know if all this work was worth it, but I finally got the torque converter clutch apart. This here is the torque converter clutch surface, and this is the back surface that it would touch up against once this entire piston fills with oil. It also appears here these were the return springs to which the rivets I cut off to get this whole thing to come apart. Just going to use our shirt again to clean up the surface so we can take a quick look. Now one theory is if you left this transmission with a shuddering torque converter, it's going to do a lot of damage and you'd have to replace this torque converter because this clutch is just basically slipping when it's using the wrong fluid. Now the fix for that obviously would be to switch out the fluid before it does any damage inside of here. Taking a look at the friction surfaces, you can see they are in pretty decent shape. Definitely well used, definitely worn, but not shuddered or not too much hot spotting or anything like that. Here's the back of the piston. Now most other clutches are on-off, lock or not lock, but this one in particular is controlled very slowly in a linear manner, so it allows a little bit of slip to dampen any engine vibrations coming through. They specifically did that to make it nice and smooth. Hey, it is a Cadillac. That of course is in addition to the mechanical torsional damper over here. And that's a look at the 8L-45 8-speed automatic transmission from GM. Now the 8L-90 was the bigger brother to this, and that was found in the GM trucks of the same era. Now if you do have an 8-speed transmission in your GM vehicle, make sure you pay attention to your transmission fluid temperatures because things do get a little bit toasty as we saw. Now if you are getting any harsh shifting or shuddering, make sure you look into that technical service bulletin for that class action lawsuit and flush out the transmission fluid completely to see if that helps, because it seems to have helped with a lot of people before it causes any issues with any of the clutches, including the expensive torque converter. Stay tuned because next time I'm going to be tearing down the all-wheel drive system on this Cadillac CT5 to see how it works. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one.